Hi grade 3. So today is Tuesday, May the 4th, and in our math today we'll be working on exercise 37. For this one, you need to grab your math workbooks and you need to open them to page 111, and we'll work on page 111 and 112. Okay, so the next two pages. And you also need to grab these small clocks that I sent home in your packages. Okay, so let's get started, and we're gonna do a bit of review because we've been working with time, right? And we've been talking about our hours and our minutes, and also later on we'll learn about our seconds. Now, if you look at the clock, and if you remember my first lesson, do you remember which hand gives us our minutes? So it's the big hand, right? The big hand gives us our minutes and the small hand gives us our hours, right? So, and also, if you remember, I had told you that our minutes, so these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that is 5 times table, okay? So basically, we start all the way to 5 times 1. What does it give us? 5, right? So 5 times 1 gives us 5. So how many minutes is that? 5. 5 times 2 gives us 10, right? So how many minutes is that? 10 minutes. 5 times 3 gives us 15. So that is 15 minutes. 5 times 4 gives us 20. That is 20 minutes. 5 times 5 gives us 25. How many minutes? 25. 5 times 6 gives us 30. So how many minutes? 30 minutes. 5 times 7 gives us 35. So 35 minutes. 5 times 8 gives us 40. So 40 minutes. 5 times 9 gives us 45. So 45 minutes. 5 times 10 gives us 50. So 55 minutes. 5 times 11 gives us 55, so 55 minutes. 5 times 12 gives us 60, so 60 minutes, which means 60 minutes make 1 hour, right? So if I were to hold my clock, my small hand is at 2 and my big hand is at 12, which is 60 minutes, what is the time? The time is exactly 2 o'clock, right? 2 o'clock. So that is how we read time. Our minute hand and our hour hand, right? Now, if I were to ask you, so let's say I started teaching this lesson, let's say at 1 o'clock, right? So I started teaching this lesson. We began this video at 1 o'clock, let's say, right? Now, I'm gonna move my hands. So I'm gonna keep my hour hand at 1, but I'll move my minute hand to, let's say, 6. So first I had my minute hand at 12, right? Now my minute hand is at 6. How much time has passed? Has that time passed in hours or in minutes? Which hand moved? It was our minute hand, right? So that means we are talking about minutes. So how many minutes have passed since Miss David started teaching this lesson? So we would go back to our 5 times table and I would say, oh, if my minute hand is at 6, 5 times 6 gives me what? 5 times 6 gives me 30. So that means if my clock moved all the way from 12 to 6, how many minutes have passed? Am I going to say 6 minutes? No. I'm going to go back to my 5 times table and I will ask myself, 5 times 6 gives me 30. So that means how many minutes have passed? 30 minutes have passed, right? Now let's say I came to school at 9 o'clock, okay? When my hour hand is at a number, so like either on any of these numbers, when my hour hand, so my small one, is at any of these numbers, that is going to tell me the hour. When it's at 12, it is exactly hour, okay? It's an exact hour. So I'm gonna move my hand, so it's at 9. I came to school at 9 o'clock and I left at 3:30. How many hours and minutes have passed? Are we going to talk about only minutes, or are we going to talk about minutes and hours? We are going to talk about both minutes and hours because both of them changed, right? Because we began with 9 o'clock, right? We began with 9 o'clock, but the time changed all the way to 3:30. So I'm gonna ask myself, how many hours and minutes have passed since I came to school? So let's go back and count our hours and our minutes. So we began at 9 o'clock, right? And we need to go all the way to 3. So let's start counting. So we were at 9, we need to go all the way to 3:30, but let's begin with our hours. So 10, so all the way from 9 to 10 o'clock would be 1 hour, right? 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock would be 2 hours because my minute hand is still there. So it's an hour. When this minute hand goes all the way, when it comes around all the way to 12, that gives us an hour, right? Then we go to so we went from 9 to 10 gave us 1 hour. 10 to 11 gave us 2 hours. 11 to 12 gave us 3 hours. Then it moved to 1, which gave us 4 hours. 1 to 2, 5 hours. 2 to 3, 6 hours. Now, did we go to 4 o'clock? We haven't, right? So we know how many hours have passed? 6 hours. Is that my final answer? No, right? Because I also have to deal with this. My minutes changed too. So all the way from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours and how many minutes? Because my minute hand stayed here all day, right? I mean, not all day, but for this example, it was here and then it moved all the way to down. Oh, this is so complicated. Wait. Down here, right? So it moved all the way from 12 to 6 here. I'm gonna say my 5 times table. 5 times 6 gives me what? 30, right? So that means I spent 6 hours. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours and 30 minutes in school, right? So 6 hours and 30 minutes have passed, right? So that would be how I would count how many hours have passed and how many minutes have passed. So today, that is your exercise. So we're gonna do it together. So let's look at it together, right? So we have it says 3:15, right? So we have 3:15 p.m. So this clock is showing us 3:15 p.m., right? Wait. Because the hour hand is at 3, right? Do you see the short hand? it's at 3. And the long hand, which is our minute hand, is at 3 number. However, I'm gonna say my times table for 5 times table, right? Because when my minute hand is at a number, I'm not gonna say that number. I'm going to say my 5 times table. So 5 times 3 gives me 15, right? So that means 3 hours, it is 3:15 p.m. So 3 hours and 15 minutes. Now, the clock moved from 3 hours and 15 minutes to 3 hours and 40 minutes. Has my hour changed? No, my hour is still at 3. But has my minute changed? Or have my minutes changed? Yes, absolutely. So my minutes have changed. So my minutes went all the way from here. So all the way from 3 to 8. Let us say our 5 times table. 5 times 8 gives me 40. So what is my minute? My minutes are 40 minutes. What's my hour? My hours are still 3 o'clock. Now you must be wondering, Miss David, this hand is not exactly at 3. Well, that is true. It's not exactly at 3 because do you see those tiny dots? They are our seconds. So our seconds are our hand also moves by the seconds. So when my minutes, because in 1 minute there are how many seconds? 60 seconds. And in 1 hour there are 60 minutes. So as my minute hand is moving, my hour hand is also moving. So eventually what's going to happen? This hour hand is going to cross all these 5 dots, which are 1 minute, 1 second each. These tiny lines are 1 second each. So once my hour hand is going to reach 4, my minute hand is going to reach 12, it will be 4 o'clock, right? However, for this question, they're asking us, can you tell us how much time has passed or how many minutes have passed? So let's start counting. Our minute hand was at 15 because 5 times 3 gives us 15, and now it's all the way to 40, right? So let's count. So 5 times 3 gives us 15, 5 times 4 gives us 20, 5 times 5 gives us 25, 5 times 6 gives us 30, 5 times 7 gives us 35, 5 times 8 gives us 40. Do you see that each of these numbers represents 5s, right? They're all 5 minutes apart. All these numbers are 5 minutes apart from each other, right? So 5 minutes. Now let's start counting. How many minutes have passed? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20, and 25. Because all the way from 5 times 3 gives us 15 to 5 times 8 gives us 40. So all the way to 15 to 40, it's 25 minutes because these numbers are 5 minutes apart from each. So did you see? I wrote down 5 minutes apart from each. So each number represents 5 or 5 minutes. Okay? So let's go ahead, and how much time has passed? 25 minutes. What am I going to write? I'm going to write 25 minutes. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go ahead and let's do the next one. So the next one is they've given us 5:35 a.m. So my clock has my hour changed? No, my hour is still the same, right? So in this example, my hour, it's my minutes that are moving, not my hours, right? So 5:35 because 5 times 7 gives us 35. So my minute hand is at 7, which gives me 35 minutes. So let's go ahead, and now they're asking, now my clock has moved to 6:05 a.m. So let's go ahead and let's write because my hour hand is at 6 and my minute hand is at 1. 5 times 1 gives me 5. So I'm gonna write 0, 5, right? So 6:05 a.m. That's what this clock is telling us. Now they're asking us all the way from 3:35 to 6:05 how much time has passed. And again, I've told you each of these numbers are 5 minutes apart, right? They're 5 minutes apart. So all the way, so each number is 5 minutes apart. Now let's start counting our 5s. So let's start counting by 5s. So all the way from 5:35 to 6:05. So all the way to here. How much time has passed? So 5, since they're 5 minutes apart. 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35. So 5. Oh, sorry. This shouldn't be counting because we should start counting. Sorry, grades 3 do not count from 7 because that's where our clock is. We're going to start counting from 8. Okay? So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. So how many minutes later? 30 minutes later. Okay? Let's go ahead and do the next one. The next one says our clock is at 6. So my hour is 6. Let's look at my minutes. 10, right? So 10 minutes. So I'm gonna write 10. That's the time on this clock. Let's read this clock. So where is my hour hand? My hour hand is at 8, or it's close to 8, right? So my hour hand, whichever number it's closer to, that's the hour. Then my minute hand is at 2. But does that mean 2 or does that mean 10? Because 5 times 2 gives us 10. So 8 or 10. Sorry, 8 hours and 10 minutes, right? Now let's go ahead and they're asking us all the way from 6:10 p.m. to 8:10 p.m. how many minutes have passed. Now this time we also have hours. So let's count because our hour hand did not change it. Our hour hand did change all the way from 6 and it went to 8. So let's count and see how many hours is that. So I'm going to count all the way from 7 and 8. Now this time, because I am counting, I'm no longer counting my minutes. Only when we count by minutes, that's when we look at 5 minutes apart, right? Right now, we are looking at our hours. So therefore, we are counting our hours. So 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock is 1 hour. 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock would be 2 hours. So our clock went from 6:10 to 8:10. So 6:10 and all the way to 8:10 would be, so let's go ahead. So 6:10 to 7:10 would be 1 hour because 60 minutes have passed, right? So 60 minutes have passed. Then 7:10 to 8:10 would be 2 hours, right? So how many minutes have passed? Sorry, how many hours have passed? 2 hours. There we go. Okay, 2 hours have passed. Now let's look at our last one. So our last one is, the time on the clock is, can you please pause the video and you can quickly do it and then you can see if you got it correct. Okay, so the time on our last clock is 7. The hour is 7. What is my minute? So my minute hand is reading 25 minutes because 5 times 5 gives me 25 and my minute hand is on 5. And I set my 5 times table all the way to 5. Then let's go ahead and let's read this clock. Now this clock is the hour is, what is the hour? 10, right? So 10 is the hour. What's my minute? My minute is 25, right? So I'm gonna write my 25. There we go, 10:25. How many hours have passed? That's what we're going to count. We're going to count hours. So let's go all the way to 7:25 to 8:25 would be 1 hour because that's 60 minutes. 8:25 to 9:25 would be 2 hours. That's another 60 minutes. Then we have 8:25 to 9:25. I'm sorry, I made the same mistake again. We are going to count from 8 and not 7. So because I said 7:25 to 8:25, yes, 1 hour. 8:25 to 9:25 gives us 2 hours, right? 9:25 to 10:25 gives us 3 hours, right? So we're going to write down 3. There we go. Okay. So that is how we would do this exercise. Now grades 3, on the flip side, on page 112, you have the same thing that you need to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to complete this exercise on your own, this page. Then you're going to go to your answer key and you're going to check your answer to see if you got it correct or not. Okay. Again, you're going to read this clock first. Look at the hour hand. Write that down. Look at the minute hand. Write that down. And then count your hours and your minutes. If your hour hand has changed, if it's gone from 6 to 7 or 7 to 8, then we have 1 hour, and that means our hour hand has changed. Then you go to your minutes. When you do your minutes, which times table are you using? You're using your 5 times table. And each of these numbers is 5 minutes apart. Does that make sense? So each of these numbers represents 5. So once you're done that, I hope that you are able to check your answers off of your answer key. And if you have any questions, feel free to question and feel free to send me a message. Okay? Good luck.